On today's episode with Barry, we talk about dropping out of college to start a business, buying back your time, managing cash flow within a business, coaching junk removal entrepreneurs, building a company to scale, dialing in content strategies, and getting aligned with your goals, and much more. This is a great episode, so make sure you listen right till the end. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Constructive Conversations, the podcast where we explore the actionable strategies that empower entrepreneurs to achieve success in all areas of life, while inspiring listeners to confidently pursue their own ambitious dreams. The reason I do this podcast is because 10 years ago, I knew I wanted to start a business, but I had no idea where to start. I didn't have role models or the confidence. So the goal is to provide that inspiration for new entrepreneurs and to provide fuel for those who are already doing it. Joining us today is Barry Hartman. He's the co-founder and CEO of 505 Junk, a leading junk removal company based in Greater Vancouver in the Fraser Valley. What began as a small operation in the basement of Barry's parents' home has grown into a thriving business with over 30 employees. So thanks so much for coming on today, Barry.
Thanks a lot for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us more about your company. What does it look like today? And then we'll work backwards and sort of get the origins.
Yeah, sounds good. So we've got about 45 people working with the company. So yeah, it's primarily we're a junk removal and recycling company. We service all the Lower Mainland and Vancouver area. Something cool about the company is we've built out custom trucks that have onboard weighing systems on them. So we're able to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like innovate the process of billing clients. Typically it's all done by volume, and so it's a lot more accurate in this way, being able to actually just weigh and measure the material on site. Another cool thing is recycling and diversion is a huge part of what we do. So we've hauled, tens of millions of pounds of waste over the last little bit, and making sure that we recycle as much as humanly possible and donate reusable goods to local charities as well is sort of a big aspect of what we do.
Amazing. And how long ago was it that you started up?
Yeah, we launched in 2011. That's when I sort of decided to drop out of college, and I was living at home, my parents' basement at the time, and yeah, I needed to start something fresh and get going with something. So yeah, we chose junk removal and have been all in ever since.
Nice. And you were a bit of a pro athlete back then?
Yes, yeah, I was sort of like in between stage. So I was a professional snowboarder from 18 till about 21, and I actually broke my ankle playing soccer in the winter, just on a men's team that I was playing on. And so that was sort of a nice wake-up call for me to sort of snowboarding isn't a forever thing. It's pretty hard on the body and doesn't pay the bills extremely well unless you're in the top 10 of worldwide kind of thing. So yeah, it was a nice little wake-up call to think outside the box and start something new.
And what was the inspiration to drop out of college, like you said, and start your company?
It was at the time, honestly, it was just to build something meaningful. I wanted to really make something of my life, and I didn't feel like the path that I was going in with college and with the snowboarding or even just living at home was where I wanted to be. I was still young at the time. I was 23 years old, and I actually met one of my business partners in college, and so we sort of co-founded it and launched it together. But yeah, I remember at the time, I would spend a few hours studying for a test, but then I'd spend 20 hours writing a business plan for 505 Junk, and just getting the clarity around how to launch this thing and getting all the numbers dialed in and getting all of our marketing plan and operational plans really built to be nice and sound. It just eventually it just came to life, and I looked at what 1-800-GOT-JUNK was doing, and they were doing at the time I think $150 million a year through their franchise model. So I knew that it was sort of a blue collar business, but if we add some professionalism to them, that there's a lot of opportunity to scale it up.
Amazing. And did you have some guidance at that point when you're building out your plan? Did you have entrepreneurial parents to look to?
Sort of. My mom was she was amazing. My mom is amazing. She worked from home or stayed at home and took care of the kids when she was younger. My dad worked in HR. He got laid off at 50, and so they actually bought, I think, the 10th franchise off of a company called Cruise Ship Centers, and so they did retail, sort of brick and mortar cruise travel sales before Expedia bought the whole franchise system when they had about 150 locations. And so they were helpful for sure in the beginning, but also the CEO of Expedia or of Cruise Ship Centers, who sold the company to Expedia he must have sold it for $30 or $40 million. he actually agreed to be our mentor for a few months when we launched, and so he really helped understand like the importance of strategic planning and just getting all your ducks in a row. And so yeah, he was a big inspiration early on for sure.
That's great. And were you did you have your eye on 1-800-GOT-JUNK, or were you communicating with them and to learn from them?
Yeah, I know Brian fairly well. We feed each other ideas back and forth. I think he even did an article for Profit Magazine or whichever one it was about like competition and how it's good to just have like friendly competition. So and they've got a different model. They're a franchise system, and so they're typically like more focused on building out the franchisees. But yeah, it's been a good battle. I mean, we've been neck and neck with them in the Vancouver market for the largest market share since we started, and I think we may have passed them this year. So it's just like a nice friendly battle. But I've been to the O2E Brands office where 1-800-GOT-JUNK is headquartered, and met Brian a few times. He's really friendly, good guy, and yeah, I mean he's paved the way for a lot of entrepreneurs in this industry. So
Absolutely, that's great to have that friendly competition. Yeah, and that keeps you innovating. Like you said, you innovated with the scales, putting scales on trucks. Was that like your idea? How did that get implemented and come about?
yeah, I mean we were just looking for like a good honest way to bill clients, and part of the feedback when we did some market research that clients were saying is that the industry is just sort of like unpredictable when it comes to pricing. Certain people charge a certain amount per truck, certain people say it's a half truck when it's only a third of a truck, and it's like when it's volume based it's hard to make it really accurate. And on the commercial side, like a lot of the commercial clients can't be on site, property managers and construction companies, and so when they're trying to, assess the bill that they got versus the material that was hauled away, it's hard to really prove it. And on top of that, we pay by weight to dispose of material at the transfer station, as well as the recycling depot. So paying by weight or charging by weight just seemed to make sense at the time. And so we looked into it, and there wasn't anything on the market that was available. And so we had to do a bit of engineering and figure some stuff out on how to customize the truck to make it work. But yeah, it all came together without getting into the, nuts and bolts of the, how it happened kind of thing. But essentially now we can put material in the back of the truck. We can print off a weight ticket on the side of the truck, and we do all our billing by weight on site with the clients. And if the client's not on site, then we just include a date stamped weight ticket with our invoice.
Oh, nice. And what's the most valuable lesson you've learned, over the last 13 years, I think it is, growing your business?
Honestly, it's probably in the last couple of years. One of my business coaches has really gone all in on just like figuring out how to get your time back. And like for me, it was more so of just like a lot of doing things in the first 5 or 10 years, first 10 years really. And in the last little bit, it's transitioned more to like empower your team to get the job done. So we've got a great group of people, from our sales team to business development to full-time marketer, HR. We've got lots of people in operations, all of our drivers, training up our president right now. Like there's a whole bunch of really amazing people. And honestly, every time I catch myself doing something, I just think to myself, I'm cannibalizing someone else's opportunity to be able to grow in this company. And so it's not to say like, you just want to put your feet up and sit on the beach and do nothing, but it's more so just like true growth comes from empowering other people to grow your business with you rather than trying to do everything yourself. So I got stuck in that rut for a little bit. And, for anyone listening that's a smaller company that's like, oh yeah, that must be nice, you've got 40 or 50 employees. Just remember that we all started somewhere, and that's why the answer is to the question, which is what's the biggest lesson. And anyone can break through in any market, whether it's a coffee store, clothing, retail, junk removal, or tech. Yeah, it's all about building the team up, though. That's for sure.
That's a great lesson, and that empower other people, let them learn, take on that responsibility, and then it frees yourself up. Did you notice your growth? Was it sort of hockey stick shaped, or was it just gradual over time? What does that look like?
It's been pretty like steady Eddie. In the early days, we were growing by like 100% a year, but recently we sort of, I don't know, that doesn't really interest me as much. Like we're building out an acquisition strategy in 2025, so come next year, I guess 2026, maybe if an opportunity pops up sooner, we're going to be eyeing up a few companies in Canada that are looking to exit. So I think naturally from that, you'll see more of a hockey stick growth just because you're essentially like acquiring a company and rolling up that revenue. But yeah, I mean, we've grown anywhere from like 20 to 25% most years. We've had a couple down years where, it just didn't quite pan out as you thought, or we're sort of doing like a rebuild year. I don't know if any football fans out there, but sometimes you got to rebuild a little bit, and that's not your year to have a big win. But for the most part, like I know, like in our strategic planning this year, our VP of Sales and Ops, Alex, he's like, I want to win 9 out of 12 months this year. And to me, that's a good win. If you're building out your predictions and your budget and you go 9 for 12, that probably means that you set ambitious enough targets, but also have the discipline to actually get the job done. So
Awesome. So the flip side of that question, what's one of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome as you're growing your company?
I would say like maintaining good profit margins and ensuring that cash flow is sound. Like, everyone's heard that cash flow is oxygen, and I look at it like a tool. It's one of the most important tools that you have is having strong cash flow. And sometimes things don't go to plan, and the problem of running an unprofitable business is the banks won't work with you. No one's going to really work with you if your last year's bottom line is not looking good, because even a simple line of credit increase, people are going to the banks are going to look at it and go, well, you don't have the capacity to pay down this LOC or this principal debt or any vehicle loans or anything like that, because there's no cash flow at the bottom line, and so we just can't do it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The answer is just no. So, that was a big learning lesson for me. Is just making sure, like, some people are like almost like scared to talk about profit. They think it's like this. There's this stigma around it where it's like profit means like the owners of the company are just gonna like use it all and drain it to go buy a bunch of like Lamborghinis and stuff like that. But and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you've been in business for a long time and there's healthy profit coming through, and the entrepreneurs took the risk in the beginning. By all means, go treat yourself. But just outside of like issuing dividends from the profit, like it's more just like having healthy cash flow coming in, having a healthy amount of line of credit availability, having a healthy amount of cash in the bank account, and not having too many down months where that cash amount gets brought down. So yeah, I think like especially in the sort of the home service sort of space where there's a lot of like capital resources like trucks and people and fuel and disposal costs, like it makes it really important to make sure you're running like a good profitable business.
Absolutely. And what sort of tools or strategies help you to do that? Is it like your accounting team, or or did you learn that lesson early on when it was just a smaller team? What helps you to stay on top of that?
Yeah, like we'll build out our budgets every year and sort of check in. I really like retrending the budget, so I don't like changing the original budget, because we actually like to like look at like compare, okay, what was the original budget compared to the actuals, and see what that gap is to make sure we're staying on top of it. But I also like retrending the budget on like even like a weekly basis, just to know like, okay, we budgeted $400,000 in revenue this month, and now we're trending 450, and for better or for worse, it's going to have implications on the business, especially if your ability to produce revenue requires not every model is like this. Like we've also launched Bolt Accelerator recently, which is a coaching business model for junk removal entrepreneurs, and that model, as we scale it up, it doesn't need a ton more resources. We just need to continue to add really good value for the entrepreneurs in the group. Whereas in the junk removal space, to scale revenue, you need more people, you need more trucks, right? We might need more office space. And so that's where it's important to really stay on top of like the trending budget. Whereas with Bolt, we started getting into the budget, and I was like, let's not even build one this year. Like, let's just build really cool stuff that the entrepreneurs are really going to love and value, and we'll just like pour resources into making sure it's awesome. So it's a little bit different. Every business model is different, but particularly for 505 Junk, really staying on top of the numbers is crucial.
Yeah, and tell me more about what's that process been like, and is this a really sort of like niche group? Because I can't imagine there's that many junk removal coaching programs out there.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I don't know that industry too well, to be honest. Like, I started it without even like doing any competitive analysis. I just knew that we had the experience and sort of the qualifications to coach other people, and we built a business model that could add value to the entrepreneurs. And I had enough people reaching out to me personally to get help building out their business, and it just got to a point where you can't help everyone for free all the time. So we just built out like a group coaching model. I do a bit of one-on-one coaching as well for clients that really want to scale up. But yeah, as far as like the one-on-one, the inspiration came. We actually built an entire franchise system for 505 Junk. So we opened a couple locations, which we ended up buying back. The whole thing was built to scale. And so going through that process, building one of the fastest growing junk removal companies in Canada. And I honestly had no idea that there's not a lot of independent junk removal companies in the United States that are our size. I think because it's such a low average job size that people struggle getting past that sort of like $1 million mark or even a $2 million mark. Whereas like, yeah, there's recipes to be able to get that done. It's just a matter of like understanding how to do it and having the accountability and execution to do it. But that's where Bolt was born, is really just to like help other entrepreneurs in the space. We've been fortunate enough to get support from other people over the years, and like you said, like your inspiration for the podcast 10 years ago was just being able to not having access to these conversations and these people. And so in Bolt, we do weekly coaching. We give them access to all the systems and tools that we've built at 505 Junk over the years. And there's a really good group, like a community chat element of people online. And so we kind of keep everyone together. And because it is such a niche space, like it's cool for people to be able to help problem solve each other. And that's what a lot of the big franchise networks get, right? They're in non-competing markets, so they're happy to share all their stories and learning lessons, and on top of that, they get access to the best suppliers, the best digital marketers, the best coaching, the best resources, pre-built SOPs. And so, we kept thinking about this, like there's nothing available in the junk market because there's no publicly traded companies, and all of the other resources are held by the franchisors. Yet it's a $30 to $40 billion market in North America with tens of thousands of companies that are all out just sort of doing this on their own. So yeah, that's where we kind of figured like it'd be nice to have a platform to help everyone collectively.
Yeah, that's great. And you said people are reaching out to you for help. Was this part of like a social media strategy? Where were people reaching out to you?
Yeah, I would just get emails. Like they get my phone number sometimes. They send me a text. I've been a part of other business coaching platforms in the past, and so the odd time there's a junk removal company or something that was a part of it, and so they'd reach out through that. And yeah, I don't know. We honestly haven't done a huge social media strategy. I was actually saying to someone the other day, like there's some things we've done really well at 505 Junk. Like web development, branding, Google Ads, business development, recurring commercial accounts, building out a good team. Like there's a lot of those things that we've been crushing, but our social game has not been that good, actually, to be honest with you. And so like we've been investing in coaching to get our content strategy better dialed in, and Bolt will be a big play on that as well. They'll be able to like cross feed off each other. So yeah, I'm excited to sort of like take our, what I'd call like a B minus game in social media and just like really start to make it good.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're putting in the attention and the effort to grow the company social media. What about personal branding? Is that something that you work on actively?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had it in the back of my mind that it's going to be inevitably have to happen one day. Even in the snowboarding days, I mean, when I was in grade 10, I was emailing a guy named Sean Neff. He founded Neff Headwear, which is like a pretty big snowboard brand. I think he sold it for like $250 million recently. But even in the early days, I'd be sending emails in high school saying like, hey, here's my snowboarding video, here's the photos, like, would you sponsor me? And so that's how typically the initial sponsorships are done. You just reach out to people and try and get connected. And so I was always building a little bit of a personal brand. And then when we got into, into entrepreneurship with 505 Junk, it was sort of the same thing. Like, I was aware of it. Like, I knew not to say or do anything stupid as a default, and also knew that by getting like press and media coverage and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be good for business. But I never really had any desire to be like, like a famous business entrepreneur or anything like that. But now my perspective has changed a little bit on it, in a sense that, like, that inevitably, if you build a good business, like 505 Junk's is a solid business. And, Bolt's going to be a really good one as well. We only launched it in April, but it's scaling up really quickly. And naturally, people want to hear the story. And so in the same way, Bolt's inspiration came from not to hoard all the information that we have and actually use it to collectively help other people. I kind of feel the same way about the personal brand. I don't need to be talking about junk removal the whole time, but there's an element to entrepreneurship that I know about, I'm knowledgeable, and I'm going to have to share it with other people. So naturally a personal brand's going to come out of that. But yeah, and I want to write a book one day as well, and conscious of that things like that take time. So I think we're going to be launching I was just chatting with our marketing team, we're going to be launching our own podcast later on this year. So
awesome.
Yeah, lots going on right now.
Awesome. Oh, that's one of my later questions. But if you're going to write a book, what would it be on, since you mentioned it?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It's not going to be just about junk removal. I might do a book just on junk removal for the junk removal entrepreneurs, but there's more lessons to be learned than just that. Like, I want the book to reach, anyone that's curious. But there's definitely like I don't know if this is the right word, but like sort of like a rags to riches type story, in a sense, where like when I launched 505 Junk, I had a broken ankle, $3,000 in my credit card, $200 in the bank account, and half in education, and a whole bunch of people that are just like, like good luck kind of thing. And so if anything, there's just like a motivational story there to help people that are feeling like they're in a rut, to give them that boost and confidence to kind of just step in and go and do it themselves. But yeah, I know that element of the story will be tied into it, as far as like picking like a niche. Like we both know Dan Martell, like his niche was to help people buy back their time. And I think that's really important with a book strategy, is to not just tell your story, because unless like there's the Elon Musk out there, there's the you know what I mean? It's like those are stories people want to read. Like, those are wild stories. But if we can use our business experience to really like come up with a unique concept and idea, and really help people apply that in their own personal life or their business, then I think that's probably like an approach that I'm going to take, is to just like, pick a strategy and just roll with it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll look forward to reading that. So yeah, going back to sort of you and some goals. So what are you looking forward to in the future? What do you see as the next 5 to 10 years? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, lots of things. I mean, so in my personal life, my wife's actually from Australia, and so that was one thing that was really important to us when we got married a few years ago, and we just had our first daughter. Yeah, thanks. So we've got a 1-year-old daughter, Sadie, and just making sure we have the flexibility to go back and forth between Vancouver and Australia, because the reality is and also all the travel in between for work. But the reality is like we're both very close with both families, and so it's important to be able to move back and forth. And so having that flexibility is definitely, top of mind as we get older and the kids grow up, just making sure that, grandparents and all that kind of stuff have access to everyone. As far as 505 Junk, we've got some big plans. We're going to be doing an expansion across Canada. We're also rolling out a big recycling strategy where we are doing things like, like used clothing, electronics recycling, and doing more like bulk sort of, like higher volume amounts of recycling, rather than just doing like the single pickups, which we're doing in the junk removal right now. Probably going to do an acquisition strategy. In fact, I know we are, because we're planning on it this year, but that's going to be more of our expansion model rather than a franchising model. And then on Bolt, we've got a big vision. We want to be the largest junk removal accelerator on the planet. So we've got goals to come up with different products so that every company from every size has an ability to learn. In the Accelerator, it's more of a locked off sort of geographic territory, so it's for those people that are committed to really owning their market that they operate in. Maybe they want to expand to new ones as well. And then we're also going to have a startup accelerator for companies that are just sort of under that, like 500,000 in revenue. So our goal is to get to 500 companies in the next 3 years, and really just start, helping professionalize the industry and making sure like the up and coming generation sees that running a junk removal business is not what it looks like from the outside. Like there's a lot of upside to it and opportunity, and it's a good way to build some good careers for people.
Awesome. Well, yeah, lots of great goals. So what's the biggest challenge or the biggest puzzle that you have to work through on your way to making all those things happen?
It's a good question. I think just alignment. We've got 2 fast growing companies right now, and I think alignment of the team to make sure that, starting with myself, like my time is properly divided between both organizations, and as well as my family as well, and friends, and just having that, balance is never the right word, because, if you look at sleep, that's a third of your life. So that's not balance. It's just making sure that I'm applying the right amount of energy into the right amount of buckets and not going too all in on anything. As far as for 505 junk, I think it's just making sure when we do get into the acquisition strategy, that we're not just rushing the process just for the sake of growth. Like we're finding companies that are really good quality, well-built businesses, and it just so happens that the founder or entrepreneur within that organization, it's just not for them anymore. And it doesn't matter what the reason is, but what does matter is that they've got a good brand, a good reputation, they've got healthy margins, they've got a really strong team, a team that wants to continue on. And I think just making sure like we work with the right people to help find those companies is probably gonna, prevent the barriers for that growth there. And then for Bolt is just like a passion. It's just like a labor of love. It's a passion project. We've got like 12 amazing people in it right now. We're gonna scale it up just because I feel like it's the right thing to do. If I just kept working with these 12 people, I'd be happy as a clam. Like I absolutely love coaching other entrepreneurs and don't feel like a need to grow it. It just honestly genuinely feels like, I know there's lots of entrepreneurs out there that could use its support, and so that's why we're gonna grow it. So honestly, I don't really see too many barriers from scaling that up. If you want a more like nuts and bolts answer, it would be lead generation for Bolt. So that's why like our marketing team is really going to focus on building out good content so we can build our social game and get good following, and just make sure that we're giving out good free content to people so that they can watch it. And if they want to like step in to go more all into scaling up their business, then maybe they'd reach out to us to connect.
Awesome. That's great. Can we double click on, you said working on your alignment, like keeping all your buckets the right amount of attention and energy on those. Do you have strategies around that? How do you keep that alignment?
Yeah, I really like Cameron Herold's book. It's called Vivid Vision. Mm-hmm. He was the CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, so naturally I'm very tied to what he does. My business partner Scott is sort of in his second in command program, which is like for COOs and presidents and all that kind of stuff. But I've just always loved that. Like the premises of the book is, and I think he primarily wrote it for businesses in a sense that you're writing a really clearly described document written present day, but it's 3 years in advance. So you're writing it like, welcome to Vancouver, British Columbia on December 18th, 2027. And you're like describing what your business looks like, feels like, acts like, the revenue, the number of people, and you're really getting clear on what that's going to look like 3 years from today. And then that's when we use our strategic planning to work backwards off of that year by year. And that's when you can take something that can be a bit hokey pokey, like a vision, and actually like truly bring it to life. So I've done 3 of them now, and every single time we end up achieving our 3-year targets in less than 3 years, but it's only because we get really clear on it. And I always like to say as well, people often significantly overestimate what they can accomplish in 12 months, but they underestimate what they can do in 3 years. And so that's where it's important to not get too over overzealous on the next year, but also keep an eye on the bigger prize 3 years from today, making sure you hit that target. And so back to your question about making sure we're applying the right energy into the right buckets. I do the same in our personal life. So my wife and I will write one out, and we've got our 7 buckets around adventure, family, love. What else is there? There's business, wealth, health. There's a couple more, but we've got this list. And essentially we just go through it and write 3 years from today, what does that look like? Where are we living? Who are we friends with? What's our business looking like? And how much have we scaled up? How much money are we making? Where are we investing our money? And it's just like it just draws us in that direction and allows us to kind of stay focused on the priorities, I guess.
Awesome. That's great. I just did my first Vivid Vision in July.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
How did it go for you?
It was great. I loved it. I love doing that kind of planning and like visioning. Yeah. So it's good. We did that for the business. And the exciting part was also sharing it with other people, like with the team and then with other people we work with, like peers in the industry. Yeah. So that is definitely a great book.
It's a great process. Yeah. I think like people, it's a good way to build excitement. And then it's also just gives it like some accountability as well to check in on every year.
Yeah. And it's like sort of like a map. You'd be like, oh, what should I be working on? Like, and then you just refer back to that and say, oh, that's right. If I want to hit these goals, shows you where to direct your energies.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Awesome. How about this? Is faith or spirituality a part of your life, and to what extent does it influence your business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I didn't grow up with it. And so I didn't grow up with religion. I didn't grow up in a household that was big on spirituality or faith. I did grow up with great parents. It's just they didn't grow up with it either. And so you know what I mean? That it just gets like passed on.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, but over the years, that was actually one of the 8 buckets was faith and spirituality. That was the 7th bucket. And over the years, I've just gotten more and more drawn to it. It's not like I've necessarily been seeking it, but so I've been more curious about it and reading a lot more about it. And I can't say I'm necessarily tied to any particular religion or anything like that, but I do have a deep belief in God, and I do pray for other people, especially when they're going through hard times, and when there's something that I think could really help me accelerate in my life and equip me to help other people. I'm not afraid to pray for that and also hold myself accountable if I've stepped out of line on certain things. So yeah, that's been a really interesting thing. I've been really big on like personal development over the years and just like have been working with great counselors just to make sure like, I keep myself leveled up and, try and stay away from the ego and not get too sort of caught up in my own thoughts. And I've actually been I don't think the word's experimenting, but doing a bit of like psychedelic therapy as well recently, which has been really helpful to like just like penetrate past issues in my life that are, we all have our things where like your body, your nervous system just creates these sort of like not habits, but just like it's a response mechanism, and your mind then acts on that. And that's a dangerous way to go of just like continuously mentally reacting, whether it's verbally or through your actions, to your nervous system.
Yeah, it's like you have some kind of internal blockage, and whenever reality comes up against that, you have the response. Yeah, can you talk more about like how does psychedelics help you like in that way?
Yeah, I mean I've been experimenting with psychedelics since I was younger. It's just happened to be where I in the town that I was brought up in. But the thing for me about it is that it's now that the psychedelics went on this long journey where they were proven to be incredibly beneficial for 100 different reasons, and on top of that, they're literally most of them, including like psilocybin, is literally grown in the ground. And then they went through this whole process of, making them whatever illegal, I don't know the technical terms about it, class B or C substance or whatever. And yes, absolutely. If for people that abuse it and use it just like incorrectly or driving a vehicle or anything like that, 100% it needs to be regulated. It just needs to be regulated properly. And so it's for me, it's cool to see, organizations like Netflix that are putting documentaries out reminding people as to why they were being researched by some of the most extensive universities on the planet for many years before all that got shut down. And now that it's opened up again, surprise, surprise, all this past research is coming out and new information's coming out that nothing's changed. If used properly in a good setting with a professional, psychedelics can have a huge impact on people's lives, especially for people that are suffering from PTSD or anything where the nervous system is really like taking control of their life, and their capability to manage that is no longer in their control. And so for me, there was some things that I grew up with that I needed to make some shifts on, and counseling was great, but psychedelics combined with counseling is really, it can really fast track the process and like truly do some integration and rewiring that is hard to get in an hour conversation, even with the best professional on the planet. So yeah, that's been a focus for me, and honestly it's just been finding peace as well. There's a lot to be explored on the meaning of life, and there's a lot to be explored on our own individual purpose and where we play in that, and it allows you to go a little bit deeper sometimes to really like think around what are we doing here, and what is my role on this planet and in this human form for the 100 some odd years that we get, and where can we add the most value, and how can we really bring our values to life and help the most people. And that's just sort of the questions that I personally contemplate when I go through that process. I know it's different for everyone, but yeah, for me that's been my focal point.
Awesome, that's great. That could be a whole another podcast on psychedelics. Yeah, I've done some experimentation back in the day, but that would be good to talk about. But we're getting to time here, so I have a set of rapid fire questions. So just sort of short, brief answers. We'll blast through these. So top book recommendations for entrepreneurs.
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Awesome, love it. If you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Just had dinner with Dan last month. Otherwise, I really would have wanted to do that with him.
Yep.
I would like to have dinner with, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of it would probably be Richard Branson. I was trying to think of a professional athlete, like an active NFL player, but I think Richard Branson would be the play. I really respect his combination of like business drive, but also just have fun with it as well.
Absolutely. That's a great choice. If you could wave a wand and be free of any habit, what would it be?
Responding to my nervous system. That would just bring you total peace.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just, you just live in presence all the time. I can't think of anything better than that.
Nice, that's a good one. What's your favorite app or most used app on your phone?
Those are probably different.
Okay, you can have two answers.
Most used app is probably Instagram, just because of the, I use it for some professional development, but also just for from a business standpoint as well. Yeah, actually I'd probably that probably is my favorite as well. I do like how you can curate your newsfeed to actually like add value to your life rather than just being a doom scroll.
Yeah, awesome. And how do you unwind after a long day?
I hang out with my daughter, I think. So I usually try and get home at an hour or two before she goes to bed pretty early, around 7 o'clock right now. So try and get home to eat dinner with her, feed dinner, have a bath, and hang out for a bit and put her down to sleep. Honestly, anything can be happening, and as long as I get to spend time with her and my wife, then nothing really seems to be important enough to really take over like my emotions at this point.
That's great. Well, Barry, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
So where can people get in contact with you? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I would say Instagram. My personal handle is just my first name, last name, Barry Hartman. And if you want to keep up with the two companies as well, at 505 Junk, JUNK, is the 505 Junk handle, and Bolt.Accelerator. Bolt is BOLT, is the Bolt handle as well.
That's great. Well,
I'm also on LinkedIn if people prefer to do that. But
perfect, and we'll put those in the show notes as well. But yeah, thanks again. It was great talking. Next time we'll have a lot more time, because yeah, we could definitely keep the conversation going.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Barry. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.